It's Friday, the 17th of September 2021. Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business Headlines, the business news you need in just 5 minutes. I'm Sean Aylmer. And if 5 minutes isn't enough, then find more news and interviews in our longer daily podcast called Fear and Greed. In today's headlines, Prime Minister Scott Morrison hails a new era of cooperation with the US and UK as China applies to join a regional trade partnership with Australia. Plus, the unemployment rate falls despite more than 146,000 people losing their jobs last month. Telstra outlines a plan to cut costs and grow its 5G network, and the boss of ANZ warns that the housing market is triggering a social divide. Our lead story today, Prime Minister Scott Morrison said a new deal to acquire nuclear-powered submarines from the United States and United Kingdom is the start of a forever partnership, warning that defence spending needs to accelerate given the strategic threat posed by China. It's the centrepiece of a defence research and technology agreement between the US, UK and Australia announced yesterday. Australia will acquire at least 8 nuclear submarines, as well as Tomahawk cruise missiles for air warfare destroyers. Beijing called the deal extremely irresponsible and destabilising to the Pacific region. There was another twist in the story overnight, with China applying to be part of the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, a broad trade deal signed by Australia, New Zealand, Japan and 7 other countries. Dealing with Beijing is a constant evolving challenge. Prime Minister Scott Morrison has pushed Australia further towards traditional allies, but including China in a trade deal would have far-reaching benefits for all the economies in the partnership, including Australia. In overseas news, China announced yesterday it has fully vaccinated 1 billion people against COVID-19, or 70% of its population. That's about 2.16 billion jabs. There are 7 Chinese-developed vaccines as part of the rollout. The United Arab Emirates is introducing sniffer dogs at its airports to detect COVID. After a year-long study, canines are 98% successful in detecting the coronavirus, the UAE says. German Shepherds, Labs, Cocker Spaniels and Border Collies can recognise the scent of COVID-19 from sweat samples, the study claims. And shares in Macau casinos have tumbled this week after Beijing said it would crack down on the industry and potentially appoint representatives to supervise the gaming operators, as well as boost local shareholdings in their companies. Locally, amid the severe lockdowns in New South Wales, the ACT and Victoria, the national unemployment rate fell to 4.5%. as tens of thousands of people stopped looking for work and dropped out of the official data. If the participation rate had stayed the same as it was a couple of months ago, the unemployment rate in August would be closer to 7%. The number of people employed declined by more than 146,000 last month, according to the Bureau of Statistics, with big falls in both full-time and part-time work. The good news in the jobs market is that employment listings and intentions remain better than during last year's lockdowns. So, after a busy week in economics, we now know that things are slowing but not slumping. While many discouraged workers have left the employment market, the outlook for jobs isn't a disaster. And just like most of the economic prognoses since March last year, the future depends on the spread of COVID-19 and more specifically, vaccination rates. And interest rates aren't rising for some time yet. A growing number of employers are mandating either compulsory vaccinations or a no-jab, no-office policy. Yesterday, it was law firm Gilbert and Tobin who said staff would only be allowed back into the office if they'd been double jabbed. The day before, it was Downer Group who said staff at its Spotless Catering subsidiary must be fully vaccinated. Yesterday, New South Wales Health Minister Brad Hazzard said businesses in his state wouldn't be able to trade unless all staff are fully vaccinated when the state reopens in 4 weeks' time. But individuals, rather than employers, would cop the fines. Telstra boss Andy Penn fronted investors yesterday and said by 2025 the telco giant will strip out a further $500 million of costs, grow its Telstra Plus rewards program and expand investment in its 5G network so it covers 80% of mobile traffic. Mr. Penn has already cut tens of thousands of jobs and made the company more efficient as it battled much fiercer competition thanks to the rollout of the national broadband network. ANZ boss Shane Elliott said low interest rates, record house prices and flat wages growth was creating a social divide, making it very difficult for younger Australians to get into the mortgage market. He said banks have a moral responsibility to develop strategies to reduce the chance of financial inequality between owners and renters. And staying on the same theme, Victoria's competition regulator has fined Melbourne real estate agency K & Burton $10,000 for underquoting when showing a house. The property in the Melbourne suburb of Armidale sold for $5.8 million, nearly $2 million more than the price guide. That's the Fear and Greed business headlines for today. Make sure you hit follow so you get it every morning and search for our longer daily podcast called Fear and Greed. There you'll also find our daily interview. Today we're looking at what the next few months means for jobs. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook and Twitter or go to fearandgreed.com.au. I'll be back later with the afternoon market report. I'm Sean Aylmer. Have a great day.